Let's be completely honest for a second. When you hear the word Ethiopia, what is the very first image that pops into your head? For a lot of us, our minds instinctively go straight to those grainy, heartbreaking famine clips from the 1980s.
Right, and it's wild how that one single outdated narrative has completely overshadowed the reality of the country for decades.
So today, in this explainer, we're totally shattering those old assumptions. We are stepping into a place of extraordinary historical and cultural significance, a place that is absolutely bursting with life.
Now, if you look at the local tourism board, they actually use the slogan, the land of 13 months of sunshine. And at first glance, you'd probably think, okay, that's just a brilliant, catchy piece of marketing.
Exactly. But the absolute craziest part is that it's not just marketing at all. It's a literal reflection of how they measure their days. Ethiopia operates on its own ancient, entirely unique rhythm, totally independent from the standard calendar that you and I use.
The math of time here is so fascinating. While the vast majority of the world lives by the Gregorian calendar, dealing with those 12 irregular months, the Ethiopian calendar takes this beautifully structured approach. They have exactly 12 months, and every single one is neatly 30 days.
And then there's literally a 13th month tacked right onto the very end of the year. It's made up of just 5 or 6 days, depending on whether it's a leap year. So time genuinely just works differently here.
Wait, so because of how their ancient calendar calculates the year of the Annunciation, does that mean they're actually living in a completely different year than us?
Yes, exactly. They're literally 7 to 8 years behind us. Just think about that for a second. When the rest of the world was totally panicking over Y2K and ringing in the year 2000, Ethiopia didn't even celebrate their new millennium until 2007. And their new year, which is called Enkutatash, it doesn't happen in the dead of winter. It falls on September 11th, right when the highlands absolutely explode with blooming wildflowers.
Okay, so we can see how differently they measure time. But let's go way, way back to the very beginning of time, for us as a species. Where did humanity actually take its first steps?
Scientists and anthropologists debated this exact question for well over a century. But eventually, the definitive answer pointed right to the ground of Ethiopia.
Back in 1974, scientists digging in the Afar region unearthed a 3.2 million-year-old hominid skeleton that completely rewired our understanding of human evolution. They named her Lucy, and for a really long time, she was the absolute superstar of our evolutionary family tree. She absolutely was. But then, scientists found an even older specimen in that exact same region, a skeleton named Ardi, dating back a staggering 4.4 million years. This discovery basically cemented Ethiopia as the literal birthplace of humanity. It's quite possibly the exact location where our species first stood upright.
But humanity's birthplace isn't their only massive contribution to your morning routine. Every single day, millions of people around the globe shuffle into their kitchens and brew a cup of coffee. But who do we actually have to thank for that daily jolt of caffeine? Who discovered coffee?
Oh, you are going to love this story. We quite literally owe our mornings to Ethiopia.
According to local legend, we can trace this entire global obsession back to a 9th century Ethiopian goat herder named Kaldi. He noticed one day that his goats were eating these bright red berries from a specific tree, and suddenly they were just bouncing off the walls. Incredibly energetic.
Right. And intrigued by these hyperactive goats, monks in the area took those berries and brewed them into a hot drink to help them stay awake during their long, late-night prayers. And from those monks, the entire world got completely hooked. Even today, coffee ceremonies remain deeply traditional and absolutely central to Ethiopian social life.
And speaking of vital liquids, we normally associate the Nile River strictly with Egypt, right? But the Blue Nile actually originates directly from Lake Tana up in the Ethiopian highlands. That single tributary provides roughly 85% of the total water flow for the entire Nile River as it winds its way through Sudan and Egypt. So practically every farmer in the vast Nile Valley is relying on water that began its life right in Ethiopia. It is literally the lifeblood of North Africa. Now, while those lush highlands are feeding the Nile, Ethiopia also holds landscapes of absolute, unbelievable extremes. In the northeastern part of the country lies the Danakil Depression. To really understand how extreme it gets there, just think about this temperature for a second. 50 degrees Celsius. That is over 122 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. It is one of the hottest, lowest, and most geologically hyperactive places on the entire planet.
National Geographic actually dubbed the Danakil Depression the cruelest place on Earth. It's this bizarre, almost alien landscape, just filled with bubbling lava lakes, bright yellow sulfur springs, and these multicolored pools of pure acid.
It looks entirely inhospitable. And yet, incredibly, tourists actually pay good money to vacation there and witness this raw volcanic power up close. It really just speaks to the wild, almost unbelievable diversity of the terrain.
But this intense physical landscape is completely matched by their cultural reach. Just think about the global Rastafari movement, the green, yellow, and red colors, or that iconic imagery of the lion.
Exactly. That movement was born all the way across the globe in 1930s Jamaica. Rastafarians consider Ethiopia a sacred promised land, and they revere Emperor Haile Selassie I as a messianic figure. And thanks to cultural ambassadors like Bob Marley, Ethiopia's flag colors became globally recognized symbols of peace, resistance, and unity.
And that immense global respect really stems from a deep, unshakable foundation of sovereignty. I mean, if you look at the history of the continent during the scramble for Africa, almost every single territory was claimed by a European power. So when exactly did Ethiopia fall to European colonizers?
Well, that's the best part.
The answer is they didn't. They are the only African country to have successfully resisted European colonization entirely.
This unyielding spirit dates back centuries. You have the 12th century rock-hewn churches of Lalibela, literally carved directly downward into solid volcanic rock, and they're still used by pilgrims today.
That incredible resilience carried right into 1896, when Ethiopia delivered a stunning defeat to Italy at the Battle of Adwa, which sparked hope across the entire continent.
And we see that exact same endurance show up on the global athletics stage, too. At the 1960 Rome Olympics, an Ethiopian athlete named Abaye Bikila ran the 42-kilometer marathon entirely barefoot. Over the brutal, uneven cobblestones of Rome, he didn't just finish the race, he won the gold medal. And just to prove it wasn't some kind of fluke, 4 years later in Tokyo, he won it again. He set a world record and became the only person in history to win the Olympic marathon twice. He is a pure, living symbol of Ethiopian endurance. Taking a step back, this explainer reveals a truth that is far deeper than those old news clips. Ethiopia gave humanity coffee.
Its oldest ancestor.
And its first undefeated African nation.
So yes, technically speaking, their unique calendar might run 7 years behind ours. But when you look at their resilience, their vibrant culture, and their sheer historical gravity, you really have to ask, is Ethiopia actually centuries ahead of the story most of the world thinks they know?